The morning sun cast long shadows across Terra Nova Colony as people gathered in the central plaza. Today was the day of remembrance, the most important day of the year for the colonists. Every year on this day, they honored the brave souls who had died building their new home among the stars. Sarah Chen stood at her office window in the Colonial Administration Building, watching her people prepare for the ceremony. As the colony's captain, she had seen 15 years of growth and peace on Terra Nova. What started as a desperate outpost on the edge of known space had become something beautiful. A real home, down in the plaza, families walked slowly toward the Great Stone Memorial. Children carried small flowers they had picked from the colony gardens. Old men and women moved with careful steps, their faces serious and thoughtful. Some carried photos of loved ones who would never see. Terra Nova's purple sunsets again. The memorial itself was simple but powerful. A tall black stone wall with thousands of names carved deep into its surface. These were the colonists who had died in those first hard years. Some died from disease, others from accidents. Many died fighting off alien raiders who saw the early colony as easy prey. Each name represented a life given so that others could build something lasting. Maria Santos knelt at the base of the memorial with her 2 young children. She placed a bundle of bright yellow flowers next to a name carved near the bottom of the wall. Her husband Carlos had died 3 years ago in a mining accident. The children were too young to remember him clearly, but Maria made sure they came here every year. "Tell me about Papa again," whispered her daughter Anna. Maria smiled sadly. "Your Papa was the bravest man I ever knew, worked in the deep mines, so that families like ours could have power and warmth. He always said that everything we do here, we do for the future." Across the plaza, old Tom Rodriguez adjusted his worn military jacket and saluted the memorial. Tom had been one of the first soldiers to arrive on Terra Nova, back when the colony was just a few metal buildings in a dream. His weathered hand shook slightly as he held the salute, remembering friends whose names covered the memorial wall. Dr. Marcus Webb moved through the crowd, checking on the elderly colonists and making sure everyone stayed hydrated in the morning heat. As the colony's chief medical officer, he knew most of these people personally. He had delivered their children, treated their injuries, and held their hands when family members died. The day of remembrance was personal for him too. The ceremony was always the same, and people liked it that way. At exactly 10 in the morning, Captain Chen would speak to the crowd about sacrifice and memory. Then families would place their flowers, and small gifts at the memorial veterans would salute. Children would sing a simple song about home and hope. The whole thing took about an hour, and then people would share food and stories in the community center. This year felt different somehow. Captain Chen could not explain why, but something in the air made her nervous. She had learned to trust her instincts during her years as a military officer before coming to Terra Nova. Those instincts had kept her alive through 3 wars and countless dangerous missions. She stepped away from the window and checked her communication device. All reports from the colony's sensors were normal. The orbital defense platforms showed no unusual activity. The weather stations predicted a clear, calm day. Everything looked peaceful, but still, something felt wrong. Down in the plaza, the crowd grew larger as more families arrived. The colony's population had grown to nearly 50,000 people over the years. Most were farmers, teachers, shopkeepers, and other civilians who had come to Terra Nova looking for a quiet life far from the dangers and politics of the core worlds. What the official records did not show was that many of these civilians had interesting backgrounds. Tom Rodriguez had been a Special Forces sergeant for 20 years before retiring to Terra Nova. Maria Santos had served as a combat mechanic in the border wars. Dr. Webb had been a military surgeon who had seen action on a dozen battlefields. Even some of the teachers and farmers had military training. Terra Nova had become popular with retired soldiers and their families. The peaceful colony offered a chance to raise children away from war and conflict, but old habits died hard. Of the veterans still kept weapons in their homes. They still practiced basic combat drills. They still watched the skies with careful eyes. Captain Chen walked down to join the ceremony, nodding to familiar faces in the crowd. These were good People who had worked hard to build something worth protecting. They deserved their day of peace and remembrance at exactly 10 o'clock. She stepped up to the simple wooden platform near the memorial. The crowd grew quiet, even the youngest children, sensing the importance of the moment. "Friends and neighbors," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the plaza. "We gather today to remember those who came before us. The brave men and women whose names are carved in this stone gave everything so that we could have what we have today." The crowd listened. Respectfully, as she spoke about sacrifice and duty, about the price of building a new world among the stars, she talked about the early colonists who had faced hunger, disease, and constant danger to establish Terra Nova. She reminded everyone that their peaceful life had been bought with blood and determination, as Captain Chen spoke. None of them noticed the small shapes moving across the far edge of Terra Nova's sky. The Zealothi raider ships approached from the system's outer edge, their hulls dark and predatory. The alien raiders had studied Terra Nova for months, identifying it as a perfect target. A rich agricultural world with light defenses and a population of soft human civilians. The Zealothi had made many successful raids on human colonies. They knew the pattern well. Drop from orbit without warning. Hit hard and fast with superior weapons, take what they wanted, and disappear before any military response could arrive. Human civilians always panicked and surrendered quickly when faced with alien technology and ruthless violence. This raid should be no different. Terra Nova looked like every other easy target they had hit before. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The first energy blast hit the memorial plaza without warning. The bright blue beam tore through the peaceful crowd, turning the stone memorial into smoking rubble. People screamed and scattered as more shots rained down from the sky. Captain Chen threw herself behind a concrete planter as alien ships descended from the clouds. She recognized the sleek, predatory design immediately. Zealothi raiders. The reptilian aliens were known throughout the galaxy for their brutal hit-and-run attacks on isolated colonies. "Everyone to emergency positions," she shouted into her communication device. Her voice cut through the panic with military authority. "This is not a drill. Emergency protocols are now active." The Zealothi ships landed in the plaza with thunderous crashes. Ramps dropped open and tall. Scaled warriors poured out. They moved with deadly grace, their natural armor plates gleaming in the morning sun. Each raider carried advanced plasma, weapons that could melt through steel. War leader Skax stepped from the lead ship and surveyed the chaos with satisfaction. The humans were running and screaming just as expected. His intelligence reports had been correct. Terra Nova was a soft target filled with farmers and shopkeepers who would surrender quickly when faced with superior alien technology. Secure the landing zone, he ordered his warriors. Round up the humans for processing. Kill any who resist. This should be over within the hour. But something was already going wrong with the Zealothi plan. Instead of mindless panic, the human civilians were moving with purpose. Children disappeared into buildings through hidden passages. Adults who had been placing flowers moments before were now reaching into concealed compartments and pulling out weapons. Tom Rodriguez had been standing at attention near the memorial when the attack began. The old soldier's instincts kicked in immediately. He rolled behind cover and activated his emergency communicator. "All units, this is Rodriguez. We have hostile contact in the main plaza. Zealothi raiders, approximately 50 fighters, heavy weapons. Execute Defense Plan 7 immediately." Across the colony, hidden speakers crackled to life. "Attention all residents. Emergency protocols are now active. Civilians proceed to designated safe zones. All reserve personnel report to your assigned positions." The Zealothi warriors advanced through the plaza, expecting to find cowering humans hiding behind whatever cover they could find. Instead, they walked into carefully planned crossfire from multiple directions. Maria Santos had grabbed her children and rushed them to the community center, where other parents were gathering their families. But instead of simply hiding, she opened a concealed weapons locker and pulled out a military-grade pulse rifle. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency as she checked the power cell and adjusted the sights. "Anna McGill, stay with Mrs. Patterson," she told her children calmly. "Mama has to go help keep everyone safe." Dr. Webb was already treating wounded civilians in the medical center when Tom Rodriguez arrived with a bleeding shoulder. "Bad. Is it out there?" Webb asked, as he quickly cleaned and bandaged the wound. "Could be worse," Rodriguez grunted. "The lizards think they're fighting shopkeepers and farmers. They have no idea what they walked into." Webb nodded grimly. He had served as a combat surgeon in 3 different wars before retiring to Terra Nova. He knew exactly what kind of people had chosen to make their home on this peaceful colony. Veterans, ex-military, former special forces operators who wanted to raise their families away from conflict. The Zealothi were about to get a very unpleasant education. Outside, the raiders were discovering that their easy target was anything but easy. Hidden gun positions that looked like decorative planters opened fire with military precision. What appeared to be a simple farming equipment shed revealed itself to be a camouflaged bunker filled with armed colonists. War leader Skax watched, in growing anger as his warriors took heavy casualties. These humans were not behaving according to pattern. Where was the panic? Where was the surrender? Instead of soft civilians, his raiders were facing organized resistance that seemed to know exactly how to counter Zealothi tactics. "Status report," he snarled into his communicator. "Heavy resistance on all fronts," came the reply from his lieutenant. "The humans have defensive positions we did not detect from orbit. They're using military-grade weapons and coordinated fire." Teams Captain Chen made her way through underground tunnels that connected the major buildings of the colony. These passages had been built during Terra Nova's early years, when alien raids were common. Most visitors never knew they existed. She emerged in the colony's command center, a hardened bunker built deep beneath the administration building. Banks of screens showed the battle raging above ground. Her staff were already coordinating the defense with calm professionalism. "Damage report," she ordered. 17 civilians wounded, 3 critical, reported her communications officer. The memorial took a direct hit, but the emergency evacuation procedures worked perfectly. "All children are secure in the safe zones." "What about our defensive capabilities?" "All reserve units have reported in. Hidden weapon positions are operational." The raiders seemed surprised by our level of organization. Chen studied the tactical displays. Zealothi had landed in the plaza, thinking they could secure a central position and control the colony from there. Instead, they had walked into a carefully designed kill zone. Every building around the plaza had hidden firing positions. Every street leading away from the plaza could be blocked with defensive barriers. The colonists had spent 15 years preparing for this day. Even as they hoped it would never come, Maria Santos took position on the 2nd floor of the community center, her pulse rifle aimed at the plaza below. Through her scope, she could see Zealothi warriors taking cover behind their own ships. They were trapped in the open with no good options for advance or retreat. She thought about her husband Carlos, whose name had been carved on the memorial these aliens had just destroyed. She thought about her children, hiding in the safe rooms below. Then she squeezed the trigger and watched a Zealothi raider fall. The battle was just beginning, but already the outcome was becoming clear. The Zealothi had made a fatal mistake. They had attacked Terra Nova on the Day of Remembrance, when every colonist was thinking about sacrifice and duty. It expected to find weak civilians. Instead, they had found sleeping wolves who remembered how to hunt. The battle had been raging for 2 hours, and war leader Skax was beginning to understand the terrible mistake his raiders had made. What should have been a quick strike against helpless farmers had turned into a grinding urban warfare nightmare. His warriors were pinned down in the plaza, taking constant fire from hidden positions they could not locate. Every time a raider tried to advance toward the buildings, precise shots would drop them before they could reach cover. The humans were not just defending randomly. They were using coordinated tactics that belonged on a military battlefield, not in a peaceful farming colony. "Commander, we have lost contact with assault teams 3 and 7, reported his lieutenant through the communicator. "Teams 4 and 6 are requesting immediate extraction. They're surrounded and taking heavy casualties," Skax snarled in frustration. His intelligence reports had been completely wrong. These were not soft civilians. These humans fought like seasoned soldiers who knew exactly what they were doing. Captain Chen moved through the underground tunnels with practiced ease, checking on different defensive positions throughout the colony. Her years of military service had prepared her for this moment, but she had hoped it would never come. The peaceful life on Terra Nova had been everything she wanted after decades of war. She emerged from a hidden entrance behind the colony's power station, where a team of defenders had set up a heavy weapons position. The team leader was Jake Morrison, a former Marine who now ran the colony's equipment repair shop. "Status report, Jake," she said quietly. Morrison kept his eyes on his weapons, targeting scope as he answered. "We have been hitting their flanking attempts for the past hour. Every time they try to move out of the plaza, we make them pay for it. But Captain, these lizards are not giving up easily.
Oh.
They are tougher than the usual raiders we have faced before."
Oh.
Chen nodded. The Zealothi were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. Their natural armor could stop small arms fire, and their plasma weapons could cut through most defensive barriers. Under normal circumstances, 50 Zealothi raiders would be more than enough to overwhelm a human colony, but Terra Nova was not a normal colony. Down in the medical center, Dr. Webb worked frantically to save the lives of wounded colonists. His surgical training from 3 different wars came back to him as he moved from patient to patient. The Zealothi weapons caused terrible burns, but Webb had seen worse during his military service. Tom Rodriguez limped into the medical center, his bandaged shoulder bleeding through the dressing. "Doc, I need you to patch me up again. The lizards are starting to push toward the school district, and we need every gun we can get." Webb looked up from the patient he was treating. "Tom, you have lost too much blood already. You need to rest." "No. Time for rest," Rodriguez replied, grabbing a fresh bandage from the supply cabinet. "These aliens picked the wrong day to attack our home. They destroyed our memorial. They tried to hurt our children. I will be damned if I let them take one." Step closer to the schools. The old soldier's eyes burned with a fury that Webb recognized from their military days. It was the look of a warrior protecting something sacred. Meanwhile, Maria Santos had moved to a new position on the roof of the grain storage building. From here, she could see most of the plaza and the surrounding streets. Her pulse rifle had been busy for the past 2 hours, and several Zealothi bodies lay still where her shots had found their marks. She thought about the memorial that had been destroyed in the first moments of the attack. All those names carved in stone, representing the people who had died to build Terra Nova. Her husband Carlos was among them.
Oh.
These aliens had turned that sacred place into a battlefield. Maria adjusted her rifle scope and waited for the next target to present itself. The Zealothi were learning to be more careful, but they still had to move some time. When they did, she would be ready. In the command center, Captain Chen studied the tactical situation with her staff. The battle was going better than she had hoped, but it was far from over. "What is our ammunition status?" she asked. "Holding steady," replied her supply officer. "The hidden weapon caches are well stocked. We planned for a siege situation like this." "What about casualties?" 23 wounded, but Dr. Webb says most will recover fully. No fatalities yet among our people." Chen felt a grim satisfaction. The colonists had spent 15 years preparing for this possibility. Every building in the colony had hidden weapons storage. Every adult had received basic combat training. Every street had been designed with defensive positions in mind. The Zealothi had studied Terra Nova's official files, but those files only told part of the story. They listed the colony's population as farmers, shopkeepers, teachers, and other civilians. What they did not mention was that most of those civilians were retired. Military personnel, Terra Nova had become a haven for veterans who wanted to raise their families in peace. Former soldiers, Marines, Special Forces operators, combat medics, and military engineers had all chosen to make their home on the quiet agricultural world. They wanted to leave war behind, but they had not forgotten how to fight when fighting became necessary. War leader Skax was beginning to realize this terrible truth. His raiders were not facing farmers with hunting rifles. They were fighting trained soldiers with military weapons who knew every inch of the terrain. "All units fall back to the landing zone," he ordered through his communicator. "Prepare for immediate extraction." But as his warriors tried to retreat to their ships, they discovered another unpleasant surprise. The colonists had used the past 2 hours to position teams around the plaza. What had been a landing zone was now a trap. The hunters had become the hunted, and the humans showed no mercy to those who had attacked their home on their most sacred day. The tide of battle was turning. The Zealothi were about to learn why attacking sleeping wolves was always a fatal mistake. War leader Skax crouched behind the wreckage of his command ship and realized his situation had become hopeless. What remained of his raiding force was trapped in the plaza with no way to escape. The humans had turned their landing zone into a killing field, with crossfire coming from every direction. "Commander, the ships will not start," his chief engineer reported over the communicator. "The humans have sabotaged our engines with some kind of explosive devices." Skax felt cold fear creep up his spine. On his years of raiding human colonies, he had never encountered anything like this. These colonists had not only fought back with surprising skill, they had planned ahead to prevent any escape. Captain Chen watched the battle from the command center through multiple camera feeds. The Zealothi were completely surrounded now, cut off from their ships and taking steady casualties. But she knew this was the most dangerous moment. Cornered enemies often fought with desperate fury. "Let them come to us." Tom Rodriguez ignored the pain in his wounded shoulder as he led a squad of defenders through the colonies. Service tunnels. They had spent the last hour planting explosive charges on the Zealothi ships, making sure the raiders could never leave Terra Nova alive. "How many charges did we set?" asked Elena Vasquez, a former demolitions expert who now taught at the colony school. Maria Santos had moved to a new position in the clock tower overlooking the plaza. From this height, she could see the entire battlefield. The Zealothi were grouped together near their disabled ships, their formation getting smaller as more raiders fell 2 precise shots from hidden positions. She thought about the ceremony that had been interrupted by this attack. The flowers scattered by the explosions, the memorial destroyed by alien weapons. The sacred day turned into a battlefield, was trying to tend to a wounded comrade. For a moment, Maria hesitated. Then she remembered the children who had been placing flowers just hours before, and she pulled the trigger. Dr. Webb continued working in the medical center, but now he was treating captured Zealothi prisoners as well as human wounded. His medical oath required him to save lives regardless of species, but his bedside manner with the aliens was noticeably cold. "Why did you attack us?" he asked one wounded Zealothi warrior as he bandaged a plasma burn. "We were having a peaceful ceremony. We had done nothing to harm your people." The alien warrior looked up at him with yellow eyes filled with pain and confusion. "Intelligence," said Easy Target. "Soft humans, farmers and children." Webb finished the bandage with perhaps more force than necessary. "Well, your intelligence was wrong. We are farmers and teachers and shopkeepers. But we are also soldiers who chose to leave war behind." War leader Skax realized he had no choice but to attempt a final desperate assault.
Ow.
His remaining warriors numbered less than 20, while the humans seemed to have defenders in every building. But Zealothi culture demanded that warriors die fighting rather than surrender in shame. "All units, prepare for final assault," he ordered. "We will break through their lines and take hostages. Perhaps we can still bargain our way off this cursed world." Captain Chen received reports that the Zealothi were preparing to attack. She studied the tactical displays and made her decision. "All units, this is command. The enemy is preparing a final assault. Remember, they chose to attack us on the Day of Remembrance. They destroyed our memorial. They tried to harm our children. Show them what happens when you threaten a human colony. On our most sacred day, the Zealothi charge began with desperate fury, plasma weapons blazing as they tried to reach the nearest buildings. Their armor plates deflecting some of the defensive fire, but the colonists were ready. Hidden positions that had remained silent suddenly opened fire with devastating effect. Zealothi found themselves running through carefully planned kill zones, where every angle had been calculated and every escape route blocked. Jake. Morrison's heavy weapons team caught the main assault group in a crossfire that cut down half the attackers. In seconds, Ria Santos picked off stragglers with precise rifle shots from her tower position. Tom Rodriguez and his squad emerged from the tunnels behind the enemy, trapping them between multiple firing positions. The battle was over in less than 5 minutes. When the weapons fell silent, war leader Skax found himself alone among the bodies of his warriors. Blood ran from multiple wounds, and his plasma rifle lay broken beside him. "Captain?" Chen emerged from the administration building with a squad of armed colonists. She walked slowly across the plaza, her boots crunching on debris from the destroyed memorial. When she reached the wounded Zealoty commander, she looked down at him with cold eyes. "Your intelligence was wrong about us," she said quietly. "We are not soft farmers and shopkeepers. We are retired soldiers who came here to raise our children in peace. You attacked us on the day we honor our war dead. You chose the worst possible day to spill human blood." Skax tried to speak, but only managed a weak growl. Chen continued, "You and your surviving warriors will be given medical treatment. Then you will be sent home with a message for your people. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that human colonies are protected by sleeping wolves who wake terrible when roused." Around the plaza, colonists began emerging from their defensive positions. The battle was won, but the cost had been high. The memorial lay in ruins, and the day of remembrance had been forever changed. But Terra Nova still stood, and its people were still free. The Zealoty had learned too late that some prey bites back. 3 days after the battle, Terra Nova colony looked peaceful again. The damaged buildings had been repaired. The streets had been cleaned. The wreckage of Zealoty ships had been cleared away. But everyone knew that things would never be quite. The same Captain Chen stood in the medical center watching Dr. Webb treat the last of the wounded Zealoty prisoners. Only 7 raiders had survived the battle, including war leader Skax. The aliens would recover from their injuries, but their pride might never heal. "How are they doing, Doc?" Chen asked. Webb looked up from checking a patient's bandages. "They will live. Their natural armor helped protect them from the worst damage. But I think they are more hurt by losing the battle than by their physical wounds." Chen nodded. She understood that feeling. Military defeat was always harder to accept than physical pain. Tom Rodriguez limped into the medical center, his arm still in a sling from his shoulder wound. "Captain, we finished questioning the prisoners. You are going to want to hear what they told us." Chen followed Rodriguez to a small conference room where the surviving Zealoty warriors sat under guard. War leader Skax looked up when she entered. His yellow eyes filled with a mixture of pain and confusion. "Your people fight like demons," he said in accented but clear human language. "Our intelligence," said Terra Nova, "was a farming colony with weak defenses. We have raided dozens of human worlds. They always surrender quickly when faced with superior Zealoty technology." Chen pulled up a chair and sat down across from the alien. "Commander, your intelligence was incomplete. Yes, we are farmers and teachers and shopkeepers. But many of us served in the military before coming to Terra Nova. We came here to live in peace, not because we forgot how to fight." "Why did you not kill us all?" asked another Zealoty warrior. "In battle, warriors who lose should die with honor." "Because we want you to deliver a message," Chen replied. "You're going to go home and tell your people exactly what happened. Here you are going to explain that human colonies are not easy targets. You're going to warn them about the price of attacking us." Over the next few hours, Chen and her staff worked with the Zealoty prisoners to prepare their departure. The colonists had repaired one of the smaller raider ships, just enough to make the journey back to Zealoty space. The ship's weapons had been removed, but its engines and life support systems worked perfectly. Maria Santos helped load supplies onto the alien ship. As she worked, she thought about her husband Carlos and all the other names that had been carved on the memorial. The Zealoty had destroyed that stone wall, but they had not destroyed the memory of those who died building Terra Nova. "Are we doing the right thing?" she asked Tom Rodriguez as they watched the aliens prepare to leave. "Maybe we should keep them here as prisoners." Rodriguez shook his head. "The captain is right. If we send them home, they will tell other raiders what happened here. Word will spread that Terra Nova is not an easy target. That might prevent future attacks. Dr. Webb had loaded the Zealothy ship with detailed medical records from the battle. Every injury, every casualty, every tactical mistake was documented in the files. Any alien military leader who read those reports would understand exactly what had happened during the raid. These records show that 50 Zealothy warriors attacked a human farming colony, he explained to war leader Skax. They also show that those 50 warriors were defeated by colonists using basic defensive tactics and standard military weapons. Your people will be able to calculate the odds of success for future raids. The alien commander accepted the data. Files with obvious reluctance. You humans are more dangerous than we believed. No, Webb corrected. We are exactly as dangerous as we have always been. Your people simply chose not to see it. Captain Chen addressed the Zealothy one final time before their departure. When you return to your homeworld, make sure your leaders understand this. Message. Terra Nova was defended by retired soldiers and their families. If a peaceful farming colony can destroy an entire raider force, imagine what would happen if you attacked our military worlds. She paused to let that sink in. We do not want war with your people. We came to Terra Nova to live in peace. But if you bring war to us again, we will finish what you started. The Zealothy ship lifted off just as the sun was setting, its engines casting long shadows across the colony. The colonists watched it disappear into the purple sky, carrying survivors who would never forget their defeat. Later that evening, the colonists gathered in the plaza for a special ceremony where the memorial had once stood. They had built a new structure. The old stone wall with its carved names had been carefully repaired and restored, but now it had a new section. The new section contained the names of the 3 colonists who had died defending their home, but it also contained something else. Mounted alongside the memorial were weapons taken from the defeated Zealothy raiders. Plasma rifles, armor pieces, and other alien technology now served as permanent reminders of the battle. Maria Santos placed fresh flowers at the base of the memorial, just as she had done 3 days earlier. Her children stood beside her, no longer innocent of war, but still safe in their home. "Will the lizard people come back, Mama?" asked her daughter Anna. Maria looked up at the alien weapons mounted on the memorial wall. "I do not think so, sweetheart. I think they learned their lesson." Captain Chen spoke to the gathered crowd as darkness fell over Terra Nova. "We came to this world to live in peace. We built homes, raised families, and created something beautiful among the stars. The Zealothy tried to take that away from us, and they failed." She gestured toward the memorial with its mix of human names and alien weapons. "From now on, the Day of Remembrance will honor not just those who died building our world, but those who died defending it. We will remember that peace must sometimes be protected by force." The crowd stood in respectful silence as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Terra Nova was safe, but its people would never again take that safety for granted. Word of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy's criminal networks. Pirates and raiders began avoiding human colonies, especially those listed as agricultural or civilian settlements. The lesson was clear. Humans who chose to live quietly were often the most dangerous of all. Terra Nova returned to its peaceful existence. But now, every species in the sector knew that humanity's sleeping wolves were always ready to wake when threatened. The Zealothy had chosen the wrong day to spill human blood, and they had paid the price for that mistake.